let's look at the perspective of CEOs and executive officers, and there's hundreds and thousands of people in these roles around the country. What should an executive officer or a CEO do if their relationship with their board chair has become difficult? And also secondary to that is, and if the board start questioning everything that they're doing.
So let's unpack this a little bit, and if you could pop up the next slide, that'd be great, Julia. So there are three, I think, main reasons for board or chair, CEO issues and conflict. And let's have a little look at each of these. Let's unpack them a little bit. So oftentimes conflict or challenge or issues, where you get that tension, arises as a result of confusion over roles. And specifically often because the line between the role of the board and the role of the EO or the CEO has become blurred, and people are inadvertently stepping all over that line. Now, we all know that boards are supposed to be focused on governance and strategy, leaving the job of running the organisation to the CEO. However, in reality, in real life, a clear demarcation between the role of the board and the role of the CEO is not always clear. In smaller or younger organisations, a board may be very hands-on, be very operational of necessity. But unfortunately, this blurriness, this murkiness of where the line lies can be a really fertile ground for confusion and even conflict. Board members may expect to be involved in the minutiae, and CEOs or EOs may resent what they perceive as board interference, and then you can have a challenging situation. So if that sounds familiar to you, if that kind of resonates with you, if it's a role-based issue, then a clear step is to really get some clarity around your role or around the roles within the organisation of both the board and the CEO or the EO. But that clarity, when you're going through that process of seeking clarity, should take an account of your real life context. So if you have a board that is operational because it needs to be more operational, that needs to be factored in. It's unhelpful to simply jump to the board should be governance and CEOs should be concentrating on the operational side. So we need to reflect what our real life situation is and identify where we are now and potentially where we want to be.
Great.
So sort of moving on, board and CEO or EO relationships can also suffer during times of crisis or challenge or even opportunity. When we've got something on the horizon, there's something out there that we would really like to seize, it would be transformative, make a huge difference. All of those things signal change, and change can be really difficult to navigate. Stepping outside business as usual for an organisation can be incredibly stressful for everyone. So a question that we need to ask ourselves if we're in that situation where we're facing as an EO a challenge or a crisis, or as an organisation and the board is facing it with us, is how do we navigate that together? How can we identify solutions that engage everyone in that process? Because solutions that do engage everyone are the ones that tend to stick. And finally, in terms of that kind of basket of things that are often the cause of some of the issues, are behavioural. So I guess just because we work together doesn't mean we have to get along or even like each other very much. But it's super important that we don't let personal issues become professional issues. So if we have clashes of personality, we need to understand that we don't necessarily need to like or have kind feelings towards that person, but we do need to work with them, and we do need to work with them on a professional basis. And to support this, having strong policies around workplace behaviours and appropriate workplace behaviours is really important. Now, with all of these reasons, whether they relate to a role, the situation, or the behavioural issues, the CEO-chair relationship is absolutely critical in resolving any challenges. Those two individuals need to come together. They need to work collaboratively as a team to resolve issues, and they need to be a strong team and take a leadership role in that. And whilst it's important to navigate the situation at hand, because obviously we want to resolve issues that are right in front of it, it's just as important to ensure that this doesn't happen again, or if it does, that we're better prepared to deal with it. We want to look at both our short-term solutions, but also our medium-term and long-term solutions. And this means ensuring our policies, our workplace processes and procedures address all of these issues, that our roles are clarified, that situation and behaviour and the culture of our organisation reflects our shared values, and that guide our staff and our volunteers, including our board who are likely volunteers, how they interact and they work with each other.
Sure.
So if you could bring up perhaps the next slide, just as a brief, I guess, example. So as you mentioned, we have here an example of a very small for-purpose community-based organisation. We have a hands on board rather than a hands around board. They are involved in the operations because they've got too much work, just one paid member of staff or two paid members of staff. So what's happened is there's become a confusion around roles and level of responsibility. The CEO is pushing back because she feels that the board are too engaged in the organisation, too involved in the minutiae, and the board, for their part, are feeling some resentment again for that pushback because they've been used to it. They've been used to being involved in those operational matters. And once and they have a CEO who's saying, no, you don't need to do that, their question is, well, why am I here then? So in this case, we had the chair and the CEO come together, and the very first, most important step was for them to identify that there was a problem and to solve that. They worked with the board to ensure collaboratively, to ensure that everyone understood their roles and responsibilities, and they expressed those by updating position descriptions, so they had documentation around that. They did some board training so that people understood the role of a board and ideally what it should be and governance focused. They also implemented a plan, and this is really important, to build and preserve and protect that EO-CEO relationship. So they implemented regular monthly chair EO meetings where they allowed time both for formal stuff that needed to be addressed, but also informal conversations around how do we feel things are going, are there any issues, a frank and open space where people could really communicate without fear of judgment. They also implemented an annual evaluation process which had been lacking for both the EO and the board, so an assessment process for the board. So by establishing and communicating properly what the expectations around both the board role and an EO's role, and with proper KPI sitting underneath it, it enabled people to kind of feel much more comfortable about what their role was and what they were expected to achieve. And they also, thinking with an eye on the future, improved their orientation processes. So ensuring that when people came into the organisation, either as staff or as board members, that they were fully inducted and oriented into all aspects of that organisation.